thing. So hopefully you all have had some really positive experiences with that as well. I believe we're going to go ahead and get started. You can add in the chat at any time, but we've got a lot of information to cover and still only an hour to do so. So let's get started. The goal for tonight, just like everyone, oh wait, we see somebody. When my daughter gets upset, send her to another location until she calms down. Right. Getting that little safe area for them that they have so much input in is really special to them, and it does help them. And sometimes they'll just go to it when they're not upset because that's their space. But let's get back to today's goals: to understand the elements of effective discipline, and to teach you some tools about how to deal with your children when they're upset and need the discipline, and how to promote self-regulation. So tonight's learning objectives, we're going to talk about birth order and how it can influence personality. Belonging and significance, we talked about that last month, and I'm sure we've talked about it in sessions prior to this one, but that is so important for people in general, but children in particular, to feel a sense of belonging and significance, and positive discipline can give them that sense. There's something that we're going to be going into depth about later called mistaken goals, and a lot of times the children behave a certain way because they are trying to feel a sense of belonging and significance, but they're going about it in a way that we don't think is the best, the most positive way to do so. So we're going to talk about the mistaken goal charts, which will come in very handy, I'm sure. Natural versus logical consequences and alternatives to consequences. I'm just going to briefly go over last session's 5 criteria for effective discipline. The first one is belonging and significance. Like I said, that really shapes so many decisions a child makes and how they act and react to things. Being kind and firm at the same time, which I know a lot of you think is an oxymoron, but truly it works beautifully. The children, you are kind, you are loving, you use humor, show a lot of respect, but you also let the child know that what you're saying is right now what has to be done. It's effective long-term. Star charts and rewards, and here, if you do this, we'll go up and get an ice cream cone type of thing. That might stop a behavior initially, but it's not going to stop it in the future, where positive discipline gives your child those tools to self-regulate, and that's what we want. We're going to talk about how, we talked about last time how positive discipline teaches important social and life skills: respect and empathy and concern for others and problem solving. I see it going on so much in the classroom, and it's really a beautiful thing when an older child or a peer of the same age sees that another child needs help with something and goes over and volunteers. Can I help you with that? I see you're having a hard time. And positive discipline empowers children because it gives them a voice. They understand what's expected, and it gives them a voice, and that voice gives them this sense of power and autonomy. So we are going to move on to the next thing, and that's the belief behind the behavior. The primary goal for all children, like I said, is to feel a sense of belonging and significance. But at this young age, they often form a mistaken belief as to how to get that belonging and significance that they so desperately need. So the child's behavior is dictated by what he or she believes is going to help them belong and be significant. So birth order can influence that. Their personalities, the child's personality, as well as the decisions and beliefs that your child forms. So in your chat, please briefly describe the personality of your firstborn, your middleborn, your lastborn, or your only. Give us a quick personality update, and then we're going to take a look at some very typical, very common behaviors and personality traits of the birth order. And the birth order is typically done in families with 3 siblings. So you have a first, a middle, and a last child, a youngest child. And then there are also incredibly specific ways, personality traits of only children as well. Yep. Anissa Brown, only child. You have an only child, and your child is outgoing and loves attention. Well, only children tend to have a lot more adult, tend to be with adults a lot more. They are the only one in the house. They're the only child in the house. So yes, they do tend to be very outgoing and very personable. Firstborns tend to be perfectionists. Oh yes, the second baby is very attached and a little shy. It's funny, Erica, because I didn't believe it until I had my own, but they come from the same family, the same genes, the same gene pool, and they're raised in the same household, and they can be so incredibly different. And a lot of this is based on these personality traits that are derived from the birth order. So firstborns tend to be perfectionists and achievers. They are leaders. They are bossy because they are the ones they are the role models for their younger siblings. They're responsible. They are given responsibilities at an early age. I know I did that to my oldest, who is only 23 months older than her younger sister. And at prior to age 2, my oldest had responsibilities that I may never have given her if she was still an only child. They're very conscientious. They're very motivated. They're very reliable and cautious as well. And they can be very controlling because they're used to having things the way that, by themselves. And let's face it, when your first one comes along, there are these, we adore each and every one of our children, but when you have your first one, boy, that is this miracle that has come into your life and totally changed your life in ways that you would never have imagined. So of course that child is the center of your universe. And when new siblings come along, they have to share that spotlight. So middleborns, they tend to be adaptable and independent. They're the go-between between the 2 siblings, and a lot of times with the parents as well. They can feel rebellious, and at times they do feel a little left out because they're not the oldest and they're certainly not the youngest. They tend to be very social because they have an older sibling and a younger sibling that they react to and learn social skills at a very early age. Now, the youngest, I'm the last of a trio of siblings in my house when I was growing up, and I agree with most of these. And again, all of these things, these are not cookie cutter things. Your child might have 2 or 3 of these traits, but not all of them. But these tend to be very typical of these birth orders. So the lastborns are charming, and they're social, and they're outgoing. They are loved by everyone. So, and they have so many, they have 2 other sets of parents. They have another set of parents with their older siblings and their middle sibling, and they're always taken care of. They tend to be a lot of fun because they have less responsibilities and less worries than the older children had. And finally, the only child is very, very confident, conscientious, perfectionist, again, very comfortable with adults, attention seeking. They're used to the attention. And so they seek it wherever they may be, because that's what their life is that home, is that kind of attention. And I have to tell you, I'm not right 100% of the time, but it's pretty easy to spot these birth orders within students. Once their personalities really start to show, it becomes pretty easy to say, oh, betcha that he's an only child or she's a middle child. So let's talk about this. Only children in the family situation from that. Thank you, Anissa. That's right, they are. It's all facts. The family situation is such that the parents have no previous experience. So what I was saying before is this miracle has occurred, and this incredible human being is a gift to you. And all of the parents' attention, both parents' attention, is all on that one child. And they even, only children sometimes can try to turn parent against parent, to try to manipulate that. And they can be overprotected and spoiled. The child's characteristics, they like being the center of adult attention, and they often have difficulty sharing. And often they use adult language. I have a lot of experience with only children. And even with all the experience I have, sometimes it kind of takes me back from some of the things that they're saying. And then I think, oh, yep, they're an only child. This is what they're living with. So let's go to the oldest child of 3. Well, that poor child was dethroned by the child that came and took its place, so to speak. And so he all of a sudden has to learn to share. He's got to learn to share his parents' attentions. He's got to learn to share his things. And he also is given these responsibilities all of a sudden. Parents have high expectations for them. And just like in a Montessori classroom where the older children are the peer role models, the older children at home are also the peer role models for their younger siblings. The child might become authoritarian or really strict and feel that they have a right to power because they have that birth order. They can become helpful, but they also can kind of turn away from their mother after the birth of the next child and kind of sidle up more with their father because their father didn't bring this baby into the home that was growing in its mommy's belly. The second child, the family situation is there's always someone ahead of them, whether it's sharing clothes or getting hand-me-downs or anything like that. Experiences, they're always the second one. They tend to be more competitive because they feel that need to be competitive because there's somebody above them who has garnished all this attention for so long, and as a result has this feeling of power within them. So the second child tends to be really competitive in that way as well with the first child. They also feel that they're squeezed in. If there's a third child, that middle child feels squeezed in and a little less significant. They're not the oldest, they're not the youngest. A lot of them may be really even-tempered, but they might have trouble finding their place because they're never quite sure what their place is at home. And the youngest child has all the mothers and fathers in the household. They are the older siblings, take them by the hand and teach them things. Sometimes we as parents are kind of not happy with what the older siblings have taught the younger ones, but still they're always loved. There's always people there with giving them attention. It was funny because I grew up as a youngest. I have an older brother and an older sister, and they both moved out of my parents' home at the same time. So all of a sudden at age 12, both of them went to college. And all of a sudden I was an only child. And I remember like the first day realizing that I was the only child in the house and how strange it was to me because there wasn't all these other people around that were paying attention to me. So we're going to go on now to what I think is incredibly helpful, mistaken goal charts. As I was saying before, children want to feel significant and they want to belong. And sometimes they attempt to feel that significance and that belonging in kind of mistaken goal ways. So we're going to talk about all of them in detail right now. So the first one we're going to look at is undue attention. They want to keep the adults occupied so they can get special services and their things that they want. So if your child is acting that way, keeping you occupied to get special attention, undue attention, in the chat, real fast, if you can, put in, how do you think or feel about that when that happens? And then how do you tend to react? And in a minute, we'll uncover the what the goal chart actually says and see and compare what you guys have put in the chats. I know sometimes when children are trying to get my attention, whether it was my children growing up, my daughters growing up, or my hundreds upon hundreds of students that I've had over the years, I know sometimes I'm like, my thoughts are like, what are you doing? Like, why are you behaving this way? And it gets frustrating because you know that they understand otherwise what's proper behavior, or to raise their hand in a classroom or something rather than blurting out things. But it's this undue attention that they're trying to get. And remember, to a child, negative attention is better than no attention at all. So a lot of times when a child is not feeling that they are getting the attention that they need or that they deserve, they're going to start acting out. Right, exactly. Anissa was saying that in the chat that um, when her child acts that way, she feels like they're being selfish. And really they are. I mean, children are very self-centered creatures, and it takes them a while to get out of that me mode. And that's one of the things that we do so beautifully promote in Montessori, is that they are part of a group. They come in and immediately realize that they are not the only ones, and that they have responsibility to a whole group. So undue attention, again, you might feel annoyed and irritated. I am overwhelmed by how much you're demanding of me. Or on the other side, you might feel guilty. What if I'm not doing enough? What I need to do more. So if you're feeling annoyed and irritated, how might you react to that? You might start reminding them of how to behave, which again is we were talking about last session, that Charlie Brown's want in their ear all the time. You might try to coax, come on, baby, please, let's give me some time, give me a little space. Or if you're worried or guilty about why they're doing this, you might end up doing things for the child that the child can do for himself. And that's much more detrimental in the long run. So if the child's response is stopping temporarily, but resuming the same or another challenging behavior, the child's, when that's not going to stop the behaviors. You're coaxing, you're doing things like that. It's not going to stop the behaviors permanently. You might get a temporary stop, but it's certainly not going to stop it in other situations. Or when you're stopping giving one-on-one attention to someone, or something special is given. So the child's belief behind the belief behind the child's behavior is, I only belong when I'm getting noticed or getting special service. Nobody's noticing me right now, so I'm going to act this way because that for sure is going to get their attention. They also might think, I'm only important when I'm keeping you busy with me, that unless you're paying attention to me, I must not be important to you. The adult can contribute to this thinking. I'm afraid I will hurt you by not giving enough attention. I feel guilty when you're not happy. You won't feel supported if I don't clap and cheer for you. And it hurts to watch you struggle, so I will do things for you. Well, first of all, if you could really create, I hate to use the term, but you could really create a monster if every single thing your child does, you just clap and cheer and praise, and isn't that wonderful? You are the greatest. We talked about praise versus encouragement, and how we use encouraging words instead of praiseful words. And what the child is actually saying with this undue attention, need for undue attention, is notice me, involve me, give me something to do. I'm useful here. I'm here to help you. So the adult can redirect the child by asking them to help them with something. You know, when I have a child in the classroom that's just having a really tough time over with something, you know, uh, behaviorally, I give them, I say to them, buddy, you know, I need some help. Could you go get the dustpan and broom? I noticed that there was a big pile over there on the floor that needs sweeping up. I could use your help. I would really appreciate it. And that makes them feel needed and significant. And so, yes, I think there is too much attention you can give an only child, but it's difficult when it's just you and your child. So there are different tools we'll talk about in a little bit about that. So that was undue attention. Let's go on to the next chart, which is misguided power. To make sure that the child feels like he or she is the boss, or maybe they might not need to be the boss, but they're going to make sure you're not the boss. So when your child feels that they have this control and this power, the parent is probably thinking, if they're feeling challenged and threatened, you're not going to get away with this, so I'm going to make you do what I say. Or defeated, it's just not worth fighting over it. Go ahead and do it. And when a child knows that they can manipulate their somebody in that way, that all they have to do is something that's going to annoy their parent, and so the parent's just going to give in, they're going to get that behavior all the time. So how does a parent react? If they're challenged, the parent sometimes will try to push back harder or set more rigid limits. Or like I said, if they feel defeated, they're going to give in just to avoid the battle, and the child's going to know, hey, that's all I need to do. So when the parent pushes back, the child's going to become really angry and really defiant, and that's going to escalate the battle, and you could have a temper tantrum on your hands. And once it escalates to that, it's, as we've talked about in past webinars, it's really hard to pull them back from that right away. When a child is using this misguided power, they're thinking, I belong and I'm capable only when I feel powerful on my terms, and you can't make me do anything or stop. So the adult, it may contribute by joining into this power struggle. I have to win. Well, here's the thing, guys. There should be no winning and losing. This should all be a collaborative thing between you and the child. You know, give your child, sit down with your child, give them choices, let them have a say in what's happening. And then this misguided need for power will not be as evident or even there at all. And you don't want to say, I can't bear listening to you right now, just do whatever you want. That's just going to set you up for this over and over and over again. So what the child is really saying to you is, let me help and give me choices. And that is so very important. You know, give your child a couple of choices. You can have this for dinner, or you can have that for dinner. Those are your two choices. What do you think that you might like tonight? Just as an example. And the parents can encourage asking instead of telling. That is, to me, is so remarkable, because again, you are having your child is powering up their brain when you're asking them questions, rather than shutting down when you're telling them to do things. Model how to withdraw from situations like this as a parent. I do it in the classroom when you know, you just feel yourself getting to a certain point, and you're engaged in something with a child that's this misguided power. I just say, you know something, honey, I'm going to take a step back for a few minutes. I need to think about what we're talking about, and then we'll come back together. You step back and think about it too. We'll come back together and we'll see if we can come up with a solution between the two of us. So again, child wants that power. Give them choices. So that is a power for them. It might not be the power that they thought that they wanted, but it's the power that they actually do want from this. So the next one is revenge. getting even with somebody. I'm going to hurt you, hurt me, so I'm going to hurt you. So tell me what you think about that and how you think you might tend to react to that. How do you think or feel? Yes, very, very hurt, very disappointed, like disbelieving, like you just can't believe that your child would try to hurt you like that. Or enraged. You could also, parents might get mad, and hopefully they don't feel this way, but I'm sure that many do. And, I'm going to hurt you back because you just hurt me. So how do you tend to react to those feelings or those thoughts as a parent? They are, Erica, you're right. They are depending on the situation. That is very true. Like I said, none of this is cookie cutter or cut and dry, but right, it does depend on the situation. So a parent might act by retaliating and punishing, or feeling personally injured, or worrying about what other people think if they see their child, if someone else sees their child reacting that way. So the child might react by retaliating back. So it's just this vicious cycle, hurting themselves, hurting property, maybe even finding a more hurtful behavior. You might inadvertently, as a parent, contribute to that by saying, by thinking this child is just mean, or if I don't come down hard on this, they'll never learn, or if I let them get away with this, others are going to think I'm weak. So my goodness, none of those things are positive. What the child is actually saying to you is, I'm hurting, validate my feelings. And it's such a simple thing to do. I see that you're upset. I understand you're hurting. I've hurt like that before too. I know how you're feeling right now, and I'm so sorry that you're feeling like this. However, and so on and so forth. This is why I've had to ask you to do such and such. I'm here to protect you. I'm here to keep you safe. I'm here to teach you. And this is why I asked you to do that. So you're explaining to them, but you're also saying, and I understand how it's frustrating for you. Even if it seems difficult, validate those feelings first. Validation is such an important key to making positive discipline work. Help the child manage their emotions. Give them those keys to self-regulate, and use physical closeness. Again, hugs. Human touch is just this remarkable, soothing, powerful tool. So hug your child. I need a hug right now. Come hug me, please. I know you're angry with me. I know you're upset, but I just need this hug right now. And help make amends to those who have been hurt. Explain to the child, you've hurt so-and-so but your actions have caused this reaction. And it would be nice if you went and talked to that person. I never tell a child, go say you're sorry, because what are they learning? They're learning if you say the words, I'm sorry, then everything magically disappears. And that's certainly never the case. So rather than tell them, go say you're sorry, talk to them about how they can make amends, how they can talk to that person and that they may have hurt, and how might that be avoided in the future. All right, we're going to go on to the next mistake in goal chart, which is assumed inadequacy. And assumed as that's giving up and simply being left alone. Like, I hear kids so often saying, I'm terrible at this. I'm not a good artist. I can't do this. I can't do that. It's assumed inadequacy. So what do you think or feel when you hear your child? Right, you can fear despair and hopelessness. I don't know what to do. And if all of us as parents have felt that, like, what do I do? I have just absolutely no idea. Helpless, inadequate, nothing is helping. I don't know what to do. So how do you tend to react when you are thinking or feeling these things? I mean, to know that your child feels this inadequacy is a very hard, and my students too. I mean, it's a very, very hard thing to watch a child feeling. So a parent might back off and leave the child alone, give up, overhelp, or show a lack of faith in the child. So if a child if you back off, I don't have a clue, I don't know what to do, the child could withdraw even further inward, show no improvement, or refuse to try. The child's belief is that I can't belong and I'm not capable. And because the child is thinking, I can't live up to your expectations. I know we use the word expectations in my classroom a lot. This is what is expected in this situation. This is what I expect of you. Or a parent might feel like it's no use trying because it's not going to happen anyway. So I might as well not try. Yes, Erica, tell her she can try later. Practice makes perfect, and she keeps doing it and she'll get better. That's 100% correct, Erica. Practice is key. It's key, and repetition and knowing that mistakes are made, and telling your child, keep it up, keep practicing. What the child is saying with this assumed inadequacy is, don't give up on me. Show me a small step. If a child says to me, I can't do this, I say, sure you can. We're going to break it down into smaller steps so you'll get a big picture eventually. And that's really, really important to break things down for them. Do with the child, but do not do for the child. You know, it is so important to let your child put their own clothes on, zip their own coats up, tie their own shoes, and you can be their cheerleader. I've seen you do it. I know you can do it. You are going to feel so great when this is done, but don't do it for them if they're capable of doing it, because you're only then telling them again that I really don't have faith that you can do it. So be patient with them and give them that opportunity to do it themselves. So we're going to go on now to our positive discipline toolbox. So we talked about a lot of these tools last week. We're going to talk about some more this week and next session too. Discipline teaches children and helps them to learn for the future. That's what we've been talking about this whole time, that positive discipline gives children social skills and tools to think through situations, to make wiser choices, and to understand what's happening around them, rather than, and then those things are going to eventually dissipate or change depending on the age of your child. More things are going to come up as they're older, but you give them those tools, those keys to learn how to take care of things themselves. Follow through. First of all, be on the same page. Husband and wife, mother and father, be on the same page. Parents, whatever the parental situation in your home is, decide what you're going to do and follow through with it, because otherwise your child's just going to hear you say things and think, it's never going to happen. Distract and redirect. And by that, I'm not saying pick up the child and throw them in the air and start playing with them and tickling them, but distract them. Oh, I know you're upset right now, but you've got to come see the tomato plants, the tomato vines that they're starting to grow, the ones that we planted together. Just try to distract them in some way. Encourage them. I know you can do it. You're going to be so proud of yourself when you're through with this. And again, hugs, that's number one all time. Get children involved in problem solving. This is such a great way to make them feel powerful, because what you are doing is you are saying to them, well, this is what I see that's happening. And it's unacceptable in these circumstances for these behaviors. But what do you think you can do? What do you think we can do together? Should we change something in your environment? What is it that you think? I'm very interested in your responses. And remember, curiosity questions. How did that make you feel when you did that? Do you think you're going to do that again? Have you thought about better ways that you might do that later? and active reflective listening. I hear you're upset. I hear that what you really want to do right now is have a cookie. But what I'm trying to tell you is that we're going to have dinner soon. If you eat, after you eat your healthy foods, you can have 2 cookies. Those kind of things. Active reflective. And again, we're going to go over more things to put in your tool bag or toolbox, or your bag of tricks, as I like to call it. But these are some wonderful things to keep in mind. And again, offering choices is a fabulous way to get your child involved. So now let's take a look at different consequences and alternatives. Natural consequences. And natural consequences is what happens naturally with no adult interference. Examples are, if you don't have your raincoat on and it's raining, you're going to get wet. If you don't eat, you could get hungry. At school, if you deliberately break a pencil, then, you're not going to have a pencil to use the rest of the day. That's the natural consequence of something that you might want to do that involves a pencil. You're not going to be able to do. Children usually feel bad or guilty when they make a mistake, but we want the child to know that mistakes are ways of learning. You're going to learn from your mistakes. And so as an adult, we show empathy and we show understanding for what the child is experiencing. But we also are positive about the mistakes. That's okay. This is how you learn. I guarantee you're going to do it again and again and again. And every time you do it, you're going to make less mistakes and you're going to feel better and better about the process. Don't what they call piggyback. Don't say, I told you so. And also don't rescue your child. Let your child work through ups and downs. And that is so very hard as a parent. I think it might be the hardest thing that a parent does is to watch their child hurt. But you're not helping a child grow and develop if you fix things for them. And if you make everything's going to be okay, everything's good, everything's always good, let's just smooth this over. No, because children are people, they're humans, and they're going to be disappointed and they're going to have hurts. And you taking them away, fixing it for them is not going to help them. Logical consequences. Logical consequences do require the intervention of adults. It's important to decide what kind of consequence would create a helpful learning experience too. So it's got to be related to whatever the child did. If the child poured a cup of milk out over their sibling's head in anger, taking the television away from them, or taking, you're not going to be able to watch TV tonight before you go to bed, that has nothing to do with it. So a logical consequence has to relate to what that person what the child has done. If logical consequences are used as a threat or imposed anger, then they're no longer logical consequences, they're punishments. And remember, we look away from punitive things. And children know the difference. We talked about this last session. They respond to logical consequences, but they fight back when they feel they're being punished. So alternative consequences, that's where you focus on solutions. Power struggles are diminished significantly when a parent focuses on solutions with the child instead of using consequences. Let's sit down and talk about this. This is what happened. Involved your child. Have them feel empowered. This is what happened. What do you think we need to do to change a situation? What do you think you might need to do? One thing that you can do with this that is a really, really great tool, and it's a wonderful way to spend family time too, is to have family meetings. And in that, you're all going to sit around the dinner table or after dinner perhaps, so you're concentrating just on that. But the idea behind it is to have everyone in the family's voice matter and to come up with ways to problem solving things. And in doing so, you're teaching the child how to think and how to solve problems. And when you have these family meetings, everyone's opinion matters. everyone's opinion is listened to and talked about. And you have to let your children know that, hey, just because you are coming up with this does not mean this is what we're going to decide upon, but it is something we are going to work on together. And again, it is a fabulous way to give the child power. And routine charts are another great solution. Now, a routine chart is not a star chart where if you get X amount of stars, you're going to get to go to Dairy Queen and get whatever you want. It's not a rewards chart. A routine chart is something that actually can make your child feel very secure. It is literally a step by step. This is what's expected. When you come home from school, you will whatever, you're going to put your things away and you're going to rinse out your lunch containers. So you have it on you have a chart for all those things. I had a child one time, I've had many like this, but I had one in particular who was very, very anxious and came up to me constantly. What's next? What's going to happen next? I don't remember what happens next, and very upset about it. So what I did was I took pictures of him throughout the day. I took and it posed pictures. He and I went and posed in pictures, and I took a picture of him coming in and putting his things away, sitting at the circle, having snack, step by step all day. And I put the pictures up, and the chart was hanging up on a closet door for everyone to see. And that child and other children would go to it and say, oh, that's what's next, or that's what's going to come up in 2 or 3 times from now. And it gives them a sense of security. And it also helps them focus on what's expected of them. So you don't have a lot of these power struggles because they know, hey, this is happening. This is going to happen. So let's take a look at the next set of slides, which are alternatives to logical consequences. So focus on the future instead of the past. Don't make kids pay for something they did before. Talk about, hey, how can this has happened, it's over and done. How can we move on from this and have it not happen again? Number 2, let's focus on solutions instead of consequences. Look for solutions. It's a mistake to think that there's a logical consequence for every behavior. So look for a solution and involve your child with that. Again, they're using their brain. It's cognitive development. It's social skills. Get kids involved in solutions. It's just, this all kind of flows together. They are such an amazing resource. And we'll sometimes in my classroom, we'll sit down on the circle and we'll talk about things that are happening and how do you think we should change this? Do you think there's something we should do differently? And of course, I hear things like, yes, I think we should be outside playing more, or yes, I don't think I should have to read from my book card today, or something like that. And I'll say, well, those aren't options that we have. So let's look at logical options and decide what to do. And the kids are really incredible sources for these things. So number 4 is helping the children explore the consequences of their choices through curiosity questions, which is what I was talking about before when we looked at the toolbox again. How do you think others feel? How did you feel about it? What do you think we could do differently so that might not happen again? Get into the child's world. And it's so very interesting to watch and see and listen to how your child responds, because you really might be very surprised by the maturity with some of these answers that they'll come up with. Allow consequences instead of imposing consequences, instead of punishing. So, this example does not follow for children your age, but if you have an older child, because many of you have children that are in public school now, older grades, and if the child isn't going to study for a test, let them fail. That's going to hurt. That's going to hurt them, but let them fail. And then when the child is ready, Talk to them. What could you have done? What will you do the next time? What do you think you might be able to do differently so that you feel successful rather than unsuccessful in the task that at hand, whether it's a test or whatever. Number 6, allow suffering. I know this is very hard, and I mentioned it before, but you have to let your child learn how to deal with disappointment and how to come up with solutions. If you always do it for them, they're not going to understand. They're not going to be able to do it for themselves, and when they're older. So some of the things that you might want to do is, after they have settled down from being upset about whatever, hurt and upset over a certain situation, validate their feelings. Don't go rescuing them. Don't call the parent of the child that called your child a name and hurt his feelings, but talk to the child about their feelings and what could you have done? What might you have said to that child when they hurt your feelings? Talk about it in family meetings. We do it in class meetings. The routine charts, like I was talking about, all of those things. Decide what you will do. Inform in advance. Like I say to the children when I'm about to read a book, and we read chapter books every day, I read a chapter, or Miss Lisa reads a chapter to the children in the afternoons every day. And I say, guys, I'm going to start when you all are listening. But you're going to let me know if you're interested or not. If you're talking, if you're not paying attention to what's going on, that's telling me that you don't want me to read to you, and we'll close the book and we'll go right on to the next thing. Modeling, also model your behavior for them. Calm, I see that you guys have decided that you're not ready to listen to the story. That's okay. We'll go on and do something else then. You can also use the old as soon as, then you. As soon as you can go outside as soon as you clean up, or as soon as you finish your dinner, or as soon as you finish the project that you're working on, then you can. So you're giving the child a goal, but you're letting them know you have to finish what you've started first. What is asked of you to do first. And let's see, we'll go on to the last one, I believe, number 9. At least hardly ever. When consequences are appropriate, use the formula. Privilege equals responsibility equals consequence. For every privilege kids have, there's a responsibility. And the obvious consequence for not wanting the responsibility is to lose that privilege. They have the privilege of using the playground, but if they're not treating the equipment with respect, or they're being really unsafe for themselves or from others, they're going to lose that privilege. Take time for training. Provide opportunities for skills training. It's so important. And an opportunity for skills training does not necessarily mean that you sit down and you talk to them, but you model those things as well. Family meetings, again, I can't emphasize how great family meetings are. That way the children feel heard, they're empowered, and they listen to their parents' thoughts on something. They listen to their other siblings' thoughts. They're voicing their own. They feel such a sense of belonging when they feel that their words and their meaning, their thoughts for these family meetings are valued. And observe and wait. Kids will often solve their own problems, that you don't have to jump in and start immediately trying to fix. Focus on solutions later on. After you see the child solve their own problems, then you can go on and talk to them about, hey, I noticed such and such a thing. So we're going to summarize very quickly the belief behind the behavior. To begin with, that's we're talking about birth order and can influence personality, and the decisions. We talked about the mistaken goals, the decisions and beliefs that the children form. The mistaken goals where they feel like they don't belong, or they want undue attention, revenge. All those mistaken goals we talked about remember that it's just your child wanting attention and needing attention and not knowing how to get it properly. So that goal chart is really handy and useful to come in to talk about or to look through it many different times. Positive discipline toolbox, that toolbox that talked to you about connection before correction and asking versus telling, coming up with choices, limited choices, but choices for your child. Asking for your child's opinion. Well, how do you think we should change that, or that we could go ahead and make something different? Consequences. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Help your child understand that their actions have consequences, and that those consequences are something that they're going to have to deal with, so they can change their actions if they don't want those consequences. And alternative to consequences, focus on solutions. Power struggles are just significantly diminished when a child feels like they are part of the solution rather than there being a consequence. And again, like I said, you will be amazed at how your child reacts. I'm always so blown away when we have these class meetings and things, and the children come up with these ideas that are just so mature and so well thought out. So give them the time to do that, and you'll be really surprised. Next session is going to be in June, on Monday, June 7th. I can't believe how fast this school year is going. And we're going to wrap up our series. We're going to talk about, again, connections before corrections, encouragement versus praise. Everything we've talked about, we're going to just wrap up and hopefully get some more input from you all. So again, I'm so very thrilled that you guys joined us for this. If you have any questions, we're going to stay on the line for a little bit, so you can put any questions you may have in the chat for us to answer. And remember, you can go back and watch the recordings once they are posted. And I hope that you join us again next month. And tell all your friends and neighbors that they can join too. They don't have to be members of our CMMS family. Oh, thank you, Erica, and thank you everyone else that joined in.